Well, we're back for part 2 of the ATC200es Super Detail, which is turning into a quasi restoration. To recap, we did the whole front end, painted where we needed to, polished where we needed to. I think I'm going to be able to get away with this fender. It's not the best, but it is OEM. Got a new graphic in the front there, which looks great. Everything's all cleaned up. And I've got new grips coming, got exhaust gasket coming, and a host of little things. But we're getting really close to being able to button this one up. So what I've done, I painted with some Rust-Oleum paint that is good for plastic. This lid, after I repaired it, using wire mesh and my handy dandy repair gun. So I'll pull off the tape, we'll see how that looks. The rear hitch is painted. I was able to save the little graphic there, so that's going to look really nice. And the heat shield. And a really, really beautiful GS1000 in the back. That's going on Bring a Trailer. And should hit any time. But this video is probably going to come in after it's gone. But so we'll get back to the major work ahead, which is these fenders and the rear rack. So the lid is on, and I had to replace these plastic pieces. And this is original from this bottom trunk. So there's that. And I cleaned this up with lacquer thinner and a towel. Had a bunch of white paint all over it, and it had some of the blue. Here are the bolts I need to clean up, and that's what I do here, is just put them in lacquer thinner and let them soak, get the paint off. There's just going to be blue everywhere. Everything I touch has either white or blue on it. So this is for the heat shield, and there was only one bolt holding that on, so I've got to find 3 more screws and a flange nut. I'm going to clean up the tail light, which goes onto that trunk, and then I'm going to paint the ring after I bead blast it to get all this rust off. The Media Blaster just does an outrageous job. So if you don't have one, I put one off for a long time, but you just can't. So now we'll paint this. The carb gasket, the base gasket came in, so I was able to mount the carb. And the exhaust gasket came in, so I was able to mount the exhaust. I've still got the heat shield here to put on. But that's looking good. And then it's, you know, these details, it's the sum of all the little things. Well, you see these, I've got brand new. You know, these screws, they're not in bad shape. They're rusty. They probably would, you know, shine up at the wire wheel, but why not just buy 2 new ones? Put those in there, and I'm going to clean this up. Then we're going to put on the proper bar end, and we're going to put on OEM grips. And you end up with that, which is really nice and clean. I can live with that. And that whole cluster there is just perfect. ATC 83. So we're getting there. I've got the hole taped off on the top here. Fuel filler hole. I've taken off this decal on the top. I'm going to work on these, and I'm just going to take the clear and feather all the clear here and get any kind of done it up here. And I'll show you how the primer, usually a couple of different applications of primer and wet sanding, it'll get it all flat, but sometimes I'm lucky and I do it in one. Just lay the like 4 or 5 coats of the high build primer on and sand it down. And this is what I'm using. And there it is, ready to put some self-etching primer. And that's after 2 light coats. And I'm going to give it one more light coat. You don't need to cover it all, it's just so that we can get some adhesion on the metal. And there we are. And it's not completely covering, you can still see red. So we'll let that flash, and then we're going to hit it with the regular high build primer. Now that's the self-etching primer. And up here are the 2 primers I've used. I like this one the best. This isn't bad. It leaves kind of a rough texture. You can't see it here, but it doesn't go out as smooth. Now it might be something I'm doing. So anyway, we're going to use this just because I need to get this off my shelf. While I'm waiting for that primer to dry, I'm going to do these fenders. So the first thing is to clean them up and get this rubber mat off. Now these are priceless, and this is really in good shape. I mean really good shape. They're going to look literally new when I'm done. We're back up top now. We got plenty of primer on there, and there's some waving I can see right in here. That's where I ground down to metal, and then this has still had paint, and you're going to watch how easily that's going to sand away. But there is a spot right here that I'm going to fill, and there's a spot right here. You can't see it, but what I'm going to use is, I've used this for forever. It's Norton Premium Glaze. I mean, when you do motorcycles, this thing's nearly full, but it's so old that it's gotten dried a little bit, and I'm on a different hardener. This hardener is from something else, but it all works. So I'm going to fill those 2 spots, and then we're going to throw a guide coat on it and block it. And there's the guide coat and a little spot. So now the wet sanding begins. I'm using 400 grit and a DuraBlock. It's pretty hard block. It doesn't move much. But this is really a good example of why I do a guide coat. I mean, these areas here, these are low spots. So if you're going to sand it without any guide coat, you could be sanding on this area. You can't feel these. You can't feel these differences in height. This is definitely low, right? Low, low, low. You could be sanding in the wrong spots. And so anyway, I'll show you what it looks like when I sand this down to get all of these low spots taken out. So I'm going to show you how these come out and how you sand it, or at least how I do it. My tanks come out pretty damn nice. So, just different angles. You don't want to lay on one spot too long, because you want to bring it all down flat. And I'm just doing this one spot. I will go around the corners eventually. And there'll be, as you can see, there'll be areas, low areas and so forth there. But what we're focusing on is getting this tank flat. You can see that it slowly goes away. So you just keep doing that. You don't want to focus on just the low area, and because if you do, it'll just bring everything. It'll just be low, but we're nearly there. You can see. So these right here, they're definitely going to go away. That one's a little deeper. And I'll start moving over onto the turn, onto the corner. And that'll get me a nice flat edge there. But as you can see, that's what you do. And I think you get the idea. Here's how the whole tank should look. The whole tank should look like this, only with none of this black. So I just need to do a little bit more. I'll do it right here real quick just to get these two out. Just then I know that my area here, and there's plenty of primer on there, so you can tell if you're going to start to burn through, but that doesn't really matter as long as you don't go down to metal. You know, I'll start hitting the red paint or whatever. There's still a couple little spots, and that's what's so good about the guide coat. It'll let you know. I mean, I don't have any rough paint look at all. It's all shiny and glass, because I take it all the way down to where I don't have any black showing at all. And this is gonna make this tank just better than new. I mean, they didn't come out very good from the factory. They really didn't spend much time. These were toys, you know. They just kind of ran them through the paint process. But there it is. Now there's no black. There's some spots here, but that's on the curve. But the area I was showing you, that's how I need to get the whole tank. Basically just total gray and none of this black, none of these little dots. And of course I found another dent, so I'll fill it. So I got the dent taken out, and then there was a small little pinhole. And I wonder if I'm the only one that gets those. I mean, you'd think you've got enough on there and then a hole deep enough and it'll show up in the paint. So that puts you back about 20 minutes. There's plenty of other sanding to do. So I'm at the point now where I'm going to lay down the hard block. I've done everything I can with the block. I could still probably get these two small low spots out. Certainly I can get this out, but I don't want to take all this away until I really know that I can sand this down and match all that in. So as you can see, I get down a little bit here. I figure the more I can get with a big heart, with that hard block, the straighter and flatter this tank's going to be. And over here I didn't even get on the body line there, but you can see I pretty much got it all sanded down, and I'm leaving a little bit of sanding left for that flexible block. This one here. This is a two-sided. It's got two different foams here, so this side's a little stiffer than this side. So basically I'm just going to take the soft side and then I'm going to finish off the sanding. But I'm going to start with a little bit with the hard block right here, just to get this down a little bit more. After it's pretty much to the point where it's still a little tacky, but I'll get that done. And in the meantime, I'm going to use the soft block on the whole tank other than that. So we'll come back when the tank's pretty much sanded. One thing about YouTube that I really don't like is that they get all upset when you have music in the background. And I've got Player Baby Come Back, the long version, which it's kind of like a I don't know, 80s pop song, but oh god, it sounds good on this Hafler with 250 watts per channel running through the Marantz as a preamp. And then I've got these speakers up here that are hand built, homemade. I built these from a kit, with custom crossovers. It's got 15-inch woofers. Oh my gosh. It just sounds so good. I wish I could have it in the background for you, but you just don't get to hear it because of YouTube. So thank YouTube. And there it is, ready to step up to 800. And I'm just picking out, you know, the sandpaper. I mean, I think the coarsest you'd want to go underneath a paint job would be like 320. But I go 400 or, you know, 400, 500, and then like maybe 600 and 800 to finish before I lay on the base coat. So let's get all the rest of the little, you know, there's little stuff still left here. And I leave it on purpose so that I can go over the tank one more time with that soft block and the 800 and just get everything out, but hopefully not burn through too much in too many spots. And there it is, it's done. Now right down here, I burnt through, but I've painted many a tank, and that's never been a problem. You just don't go real heavy on the first coat, let it tack up a little. And there's the kind of what it'll look like, the shine. You know, you get a little bit of an idea. But all of the guide coats off. And it's ready for the base coat. All I've got to do is put some more tape on the gas filling area there and then wipe it down, do our base, and then clear. All right, it's in the booth. We've already wiped it off with grease remover. We're going to give it just a final little wipe off with the tack cloth, and then we're going to get some red on it. A while back I sprayed out a couple of cards. You can't really see in this picture, but the one on the left, which is the GM Super Red, is a dead nuts match to the Honda Red. This is actually a coat I got for Honda, and it's not the same. It's a little brighter. It's a tad more orange in it. It looks orange to me on the camera here, but anyhow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the tripod, and I'm going to have you watch me paint, because I've never really done that.
And here we go. To the edge. So I can see that these areas are going to take at least 3 coats to cover that. There's the first coat. second coat. There's the second coat. You can see
There's a couple of light spots here. I can see it in these lights. So I'm going to give it a third coat.
I just got a little bit left in the cup, so I'm going to do the top first. There we go. Now I just got straight ahead shots. The trick is to not run out. Oh no, I got plenty. Now I'll get this side. covered. So yeah, I don't see any of the lighter spots. So we are good to go. There we go with the clear. We'll do the same thing, we'll just edge it and then hit it. And there's the first coat of the clear. Now I don't really put it on really thick or really thin. I just try to cover it, give it kind of a wet coat, medium wet. The last coat, I try to put on a little heavier to get a more of a glass finish. Now the second coat. first. And the one thing that you can keep in mind is if a big bird fucking lands in this thing, excuse my language, if a bird lands in the tank, much less a small bug, it's clear coat. You can sand it afterward and polish it, and it looks actually just flawless. So we're getting number 3 out. We're going to wait about 6 to 8 minutes between coats, and you're supposed to wait about 15-20 minutes between the base coat and doing the clear coat. And then in between the base coats, another 5-7 minutes. Just till it flashes dull and kind of dry. That gives you some times. Alright, our last coat. I'm going to do the top first because the level of clearing here, I'm worried about shooting air. So, I'm moving a little slower because I'm getting a little more paint. Probably a little thick. Maybe a little thick in here. That's okay. I don't see any sags or runs. I was really trying to lay it on pretty thick on the final coat. And now, we'll just clean the gun and walk away. Let it sit overnight.
This fender had a little bit more repair to do. Did some here. I did some here. Did some here, and you can see the corners broken off, but it almost looks natural. And I did some there. This fender is in pretty bad shape, but I really don't want to spend the money for the replacements. So I'm just going to try and polish them up as best I can. The mud flaps, again, are in great condition, so they'll look good. They'll look good for a driver. Okay, so we've got the cracks fixed, and I've got the ATC back on the lift. It's time to bring the tank back from the paint booth, and I just wanted to show you what I use on these little rubber tank holders. Got a little gooped in there. Get it cinched in. That way they stay in. I hate the fact that the rubber gets a little old and it doesn't, it's kind of gotten enlarged, so it'll slide off. We'll put the tank on here. I'm going to remove these keys so they don't get in the way. Yeah, that's a pretty close match, huh? That's an exact match. That's the color there, that's for sure. And it's time to start positioning the graphics. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a lot of this paper so I can get something that works better. But what I'm finding is that it lays about like right there. And what you've got is, at first glance, I thought this lined up with this body line, but it doesn't. That's probably more like it there. The Honda is at a little bit of an angle, and this top ends right about on this body line. So that's about where I'm thinking. So there we are. It's a little better. And what I have here is a picture off the internet, and also a picture of the tank before I painted it. So I can go off of that. And that's right where I think it's going to go. So what you do, just very lightly, because this is fresh paint, just tape those pieces and fold back your decal. That way you're right where you want to be. Start kind of in the middle, move it out, move it out, and you're probably going to have to re-stick this a little bit. Just work it. There's nothing wrong with taking it back. To get it to line up and lay down right. There we are. So let's see what we got here. Trying to get that tape off as soon as I could. This paint's so fresh here. And the nice thing about base coat and clear coat is that you can sand extra careful. And there it is. The 83 Honda 200 tank. And I think she looks pretty good. Real nice. Nice and shiny. Great graphics. It's coming along so well, it's probably going to be hard to ride this off-road. But that's just the way it goes. So here's the paint. And that's how you paint the tank on an ATC Honda and apply the decals. Well, the final step is going to be the rear fenders and the rack. And little things like the air cleaner, but you don't need to go into that because it's really just wiping it down. So, I super cleaned the fenders. I've got a little bit of go-go juice on them. And I'm not really going to buff them out. I'm really waffling about getting brand new ones because it would just, it would look so good on this bike, but it's a driver, so I am going to stay with these. So I ordered new rubber grommets, new bolts, and all of the hardware that kind of got mismatched through the years. And you can see the difference between, the detail on the flaps. So I'm going to work on these fenders, put them on. And this is really my final issue. They painted it white. And so I'm going to have to just sand this and paint it, which that's not a really big deal. It's a lot of work, but it is missing the center piece, which I'm not going to go for at this point. And they painted the chrome. And I think the chrome's going to be okay. It doesn't look real dented. So I'm just going to have to take patience and lacquer thinner, get all this white paint off. This is what I'm using because the lacquer thinner is just not working. And this is definitely working. I just thought I'd show you. I've already put some on here, but watch this. I think it's because the chrome, doesn't have much holding ability. But they say 15 minutes. And oh my gosh, it's already bubbling. You can see it. So I'll put all this that I get to on the top here. And then probably just clean it up and flip it over and get the other side. And we'll have a chrome grab bar again. All right, it's only been about 5 minutes. Oh, it's still sticky. There's still, it says 15 minutes, so there's still some areas that are stuck. So I will recoat that, and I'm going to wait the complete 15 minutes. I'm not going to strip these because I'm just going to sand. I'm going to get a little bit of lacquer thinner, get as much of this white off, this white here. And I'll paint this with the rack. And then these I'll just use some lacquer thinner like I normally do and let it soak. And these will come back to black. So I got this off down to the chrome. So now it's just regular chrome polish. And this is what I use. So I don't think I have to go into any great detail. I'll just show you what it's like afterwards. And there it is. All shined up. Ready to go. Looks a lot better than the white, doesn't it? Alright, so I'm waiting for the pieces to mount that fender. And we'll just keep working on other things. The rack is all sanded. Sanded it with 400. It's nice and smooth, so we're gonna throw the semi-gloss. And I'm just using the Rust-Oleum semi-gloss enamel. I really like the other stuff, but I gotta get rid of this too. And it's just as good. And given that there's a few areas with a little bit of rust, it probably is even a better choice. So let's get that black on there.
And there's one light coat.
We keep making progress on the back fenders. I've got the flaps on, got the new rubber grommet, and I've got brand new hardware here and here, but I need to tap the threads. Either they put something in there that shouldn't have been there. I mean, a lot of mismatched stuff on these fenders, so I'll tap those. And I've got 2 more of these screws coming. That's one out of my box, but I've got all that mounted. It sure is nice when you have new hardware, because this rear grab rail had mixed match stuff, and you can see how nice it looks. I haven't tightened them down, but with the nice refinished trailer hitch, and I was able to save the original trailer maximum weight. So we've got all that on there, and that's all that secures this whole back tub is the grab rail here, and this rubber pushing against the other pieces of rubber kind of sandwiches in the frame there. So it's just really starting to come together. So next, I had to order these. These are they go somewhere, I believe, off that screw to here. And it's a cross brace, which will bring the fender straight. And that's going to make a huge difference. You know, when you look at the back, you can see this one's a little low. Now it might come up when I tighten things, but really those braces are what's going to give it a straight look. And that's priceless too. So I've got 2 used ones coming off of eBay for that. I've got to get some lacquer thinner and get this all white again. I did it on that and on this one, and it sure makes a difference, all the white against that dark blue. Just so you know, lacquer thinner won't, I mean, you know, you want to test everything, but lacquer thinner won't affect I'm sure it would if you kept scrubbing on it, but you can see how that white just, even though it's an old sticker, but that's kind of cool too, you know, in an old bike. But I think some of this is just overspray from, I don't know, whatever they did to this bike. But you can see it coming nice and clear. Now that is where the white itself has given up the ghost. But there we go. A little more on this. You can see there's some blue coming off with that. And there we are. Looking good. Now I was able to put a bolt up through there and a collar, just, you can see that's going to be solid enough. I mean, you could drive this. You could drive it forever like this with the fender mounted right there. But I want to get the supports. I've got them coming. So I've got the rack on. This baby's done. I'm going to go ahead and take it outside and do a walk around to end the video. Well, she's done. We are all done with Big Red. there's 3 or 4 things that I'm going to do that might, you know, you're not going to see, and it's not really going to make any difference. There's a couple of braces, a couple of nuts and bolts here and there. But overall, there's Big Red and the super detail. And everything is just really looking good. And this is driver quality. You know, I'm not going to take this to any show, but it is a clean example of a Big Red. And you could get new plastics and it would make the whole bike. You probably could get original rear tires too. I don't know what the availability of those are, but that's always a possibility. But she is in good shape and runs beautifully. I was gonna take it outside, but I heard those people from Shingletown are out there with their pitchforks. I don't even want to open the front door. I hear they're out there with their pitchforks, the torches. They're angry. Those, you know, One-Eyed Jerry he's just really upset. He wants the little 70 that I've got, and I won't give it to him. They got their parade for 4th of July coming up, and all they want is just these 3-wheelers so that they can put their clown uniforms on and run around town. I don't know. Anyway, I just had to cut them off. So anyhow, Big Red. It was really quite a in-depth detail, but I think it came out really well. And thanks for watching. And that's the end of this video, and we'll see you on the next one. And I want to give you a heads up. I found this today. So this is going to be another super detail. It's an 84 XR 100. So with this 84 Honda Big Red and all of these 83s, I'm going to set up the shop here with a theme that would be the showroom floor of a Honda dealer in 83, late 83, when the 04s, started coming in. Seeing as this is an 04 200S, I wanted to restore this. And then I thought, well, you know, in 83, you wouldn't have had, you know, I mean, this is an 84. I wanted all 83s. They didn't build this in 83, from what I understand. It was an 84. And it might even be just a 2-year, 1 or 2 year. It's the 200S. So if I had this 1984 200S, throw in the 1984 XR100, the 84 Big Red, and the 83s. Oh, and don't forget the 1983 ATC200es. So really, I could add maybe a 250R to that setup, to that showroom floor look. I'm going to think about that. But having a Big Red, really, I could do an FL 350 too. But these are all things that they're either going to come my way or they're not. But just having this much, I remember, you know, at times on the showroom floor when I was selling them in 83, that you would have the 84 models coming in for Christmas, and you'd still have 83s. But the other thing is you would be out of some models from time to time. I mean, it would be only for a few weeks, but you'd get, you know, in the crate, you'd get like 12 of each, and then you'd sell one out. The other, you'd still have 2 or 3 of. So that's kind of a idea of where I'm going with all these 3-wheelers. And we'll just see if that pans out. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.